So Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time today. I'd like to introduce you all to Lisa Tenorio, Global Head of Education and Learning for Epic Games. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your work.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. So, a little bit about me. I've worked at the intersection of education and technology for the last 20 years. And in my role as the head of education and learning at Epic Games, I lead our programs that help students, educators, professionals in industry skill up on interactive 3D technologies. Me and how our approach to learning is I'm particularly interested in how gamification and badges can help learners kind of scaffold their learning, understand where they're building skills and proficiencies, and make learning more engaging and interactive. So we've been working on some of that within our own learning offerings. Prior to joining Epic, I was at Salesforce, where I helped to design a learning platform also that had a badging system. So that's something I think about a lot. But in general, I really am excited about how technology is really enabling us to do new and interesting things and make online learning more effective.
Yeah, so piggybacking on that, what do you think the sort of new exciting models or ways that are coming out for digital
To
future?
learn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think is really interesting is to look at games as a model. And obviously, Epic Games is both a games company and a software company, and, makers of a very popular game you might be familiar with called Fortnite. And I and I think games like Fortnite hold a clue to what learning experiences could be like or could learn from. Fortnite and open games like this, these worlds, enable collaboration and teamwork to occur in an online environment. They enable social connection. This idea of open exploration, where the learner is self-directed in a virtual environment, and they, can have their own agency, if you will, in an experience. The ability to customize your experience, like I can customize my avatar and be whoever I am, and make the learning more engaging that way. And this ability, like in Fortnite creative mode, you can create your own mini game and you can invite your friends to your island and they can play the game that you just created. So how can online learning experiences take some of these elements and learn from games? I think that is super interesting.
Yeah, the sort of bite-sized sticky content that you get with the sort of gamified learning. Yeah, it's awesome. I love the little mini creative platform. That is really quite exciting as an educator, but also as a parent as well. The interactive nature, but also that kind of creative exploration is both a increasing on your strategy, the sort of cognitive ability, but also the sort of social side of it with the sort of playing online with friends and seeing the world as a global platform, not just you in your little school in your classroom. So that is what I really enjoy about it.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think, another area that is really interesting is when we look at simulation and training and some of the work being done to use VR and AR to create learning experiences at scale that might be, more difficult to do in a real world scenario, whether it's in healthcare, brain surgeons practicing surgery, and not only simulating what they would see in a real surgical environment, but even being able to simulate, what they would feel, how the surgery would feel to them, training workers on safety protocols. Obviously, you can't replicate all of those in the real world, so you could simulate them. I mean, I think that is really an exciting area that we're just starting to implement. And obviously, just being able to create richer, more interactive learning experiences, being able to maybe simulate the physical aspect of school virtually. We haven't really done that. And I think with COVID, we're doing, we're having to figure that out in an online environment. But I think there's a lot more that we could do there.
Yeah. And then kind of on the flip side of that is we are facing a considerable amount of challenges. So what do you think some of the challenges that we are facing?
Well, I think, it's been interesting with COVID, right? Everyone's had to rush to deliver virtual online experiences. And I think one of the glaring things that COVID has shown us is that there's still quite a digital divide. And having access to technology is obviously one of the biggest barriers. We still have work to do there to solve that, to really create an equitable future where everyone is able to participate in these types of experiences, right? So to me, that's one of the bigger challenges. I don't have answers necessarily, but that's obviously key. There's, obviously expertise with technology to be able to build these experiences, and there's a cost, right? And when we think about education, that's typically, an area where schools and educational organizations don't have the massive funding needed to really invest in some of these areas. And that's where I think industry can play a role, right? In helping, or, research centers that can do some of this exploratory work and figure out models that work, so schools don't have to invest in that. And then, we were chatting, before this about ethical concerns as we start to, use technology in these ways, whether it's student privacy and data concerns, or, thinking about more complex technology like AI and adaptive technologies, and are those created with kind of diversity and inclusion in mind, and how does that play out? So those are just a few. I'm sure there are many others.
Yeah, I know the list is endless. We could talk about those for ages. So how do you think DEFI could take that forward, and working with companies like Epic Games?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, being able to research and prototype new approaches, particularly around new ways, like I'm interested in new ways to assess and practice skills in a digital environment. So setting up a network of educators and practitioners that can learn from this stuff and share best practices, I think that's another thing. Just bringing more visibility to these new models, right? All this stuff is changing so fast, and I think we don't have good, I don't even know some of you were just telling me about a really interesting use case of Unreal Engine, right? So where do we share all this information so we can learn from it? I think just having a place to go to learn from what people are already doing would be huge.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.